Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Genre Equality Podcast. My name is Hitzir.
I'm Hardy.
I'm myself.
And this month, we'll be covering the first month of 2019. It's only January, but there's so much to talk about.
That's true. There's a lot to talk about.
I know, right? We were thinking like we'll wait till summer when things heat up with Game of Thrones, with Avengers Endgame. But right out of the block, there's so many big titles.
Yeah.
And so many little ones too that are really, really good.
I mean, there's a lot of Netflix-driven shows.
Yep.
On streaming, like,
Yeah, right?
not just Netflix, you're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that being said, a lot of the big titles this month, such as, Glass, Punisher, and a couple of others were slightly disappointing, or perhaps we had mixed feelings on it. And the ones that kind of shown, or the ones that we're gonna universally praise, are kind of the smaller gems that we're gonna talk about.
Okay.
But I guess we can't avoid the big topics like your Black Mirrors, your The Punishers, and Glass. Of course, is going to be a very divisive topic. Everybody is debating the merits of Shyamalan's superhero treatise.
Okay.
But we shall discuss that later lah. But first of all, let's kick off with something that we all love. The Good Place. The Good Place just recently wrapped up its third season.
Yep.
And I feel that it is still as great as it's ever been. Since its very first season, The Good Place has repeatedly rebooted its central premise and shifted our understanding of its setting and what its characters are capable of. That it's still able to do so this skillfully and this radically in its third season without becoming predictable is an astonishing feat in terms of writing and in terms of just putting the show together. This is television's smartest comedy right now. And I do have to say that it's not like a haha laugh out loud comedy, although sometimes there are those moments. But it's just a very, very clever comedy.
Yeah.
It's operating on a whole other level in that sense lah. There's complex emotional narratives, wonderful character development, and is also often laced with astute lessons on moral philosophy. It offers you plenty to think about while kind of relentlessly plying you with whip-smart puns about food and pop culture zingers. What do you guys think of the third and slightly shortened season of The Good Place?
Okay. You have to be impressed with how... I feel like it's becoming like a pseudo Doctor Who.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like going into these different realities, going into these different like pocket dimensions where and exploring really heavy philosophical ideas, but putting it in a way that that I can understand.
Sure.
Like it felt like you're doing a very fun Philo 101 course in NUS, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't drag on lah. And again, it helps because it really charismatic characters.
Yes.
Kristen Bell, who plays Eleanor, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love her character.
Yeah, she's really the anchor lah for me. So again, The Good Place is very unexpected. This was not something that I thought we would be going through. I thought we'd be doing another reiteration of the the neighborhood or something like that, where we would still stay within a setting. Because Mike Schur shows like Parks and Rec,
workplace
scenarios and all that, right? So I thought it would be of that same vein. But
that being said, right, they cycled through so many reinventions. We actually got back to The Good Place.
Correct.
Like its first season premise, just with a different set of new characters that they will introduce next season.
Exactly.
So that'll be interesting. What do you think about this, Isa?
Yeah, what do you think?
Okay. In the initial phase, especially when they started cycling through everything, we were having this discussion, right? It's about how them going to go and help their family members and their friends and all of that they could have sat on that for a lot longer, right? I did feel as though I wanted a bit more of that in particular for that particular arc. I felt that it could have benefited because for those few episodes, right, there was a lot of character growth, right, and it's a very character driven story despite the fact that our main cast aren't the focus of that. But some really, really standout episodes this season. Janet's Void, for one, I thought was brilliant in so many ways.
She's amazing in that she nails everybody's mannerisms so perfectly, and more so than just an imitation. In fact, they asked a lot of Janet this season because she had a cool bar fight scene as well, which we thought we would never see. You mentioned Kristen Bell, but I thought the standout of the season was actually Darcy Carden.
Well, yeah. I mean, this season definitely her lah.
Yeah.
But Kristen Bell is the one that I feel is that.
She was our first POV character. Yeah. And in the finale, we got back to her emotional arc.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
With her and Chidi and all that. And also that overarching love story with her and Shidi
It's great. I love it.
It's a near flawless love story. You know, and how, those kind of emotions that you kind of feel, right, which is rare in a comedy lah, but very common in a Mike Schur comedy.
Yeah, it's all about the heart lah.
You know, like how he nails in Leslie Knope's character with
Parks and Recreation.
Yeah. What
Amy Poehler.
Yeah. Leslie Knope's character with Ben Wyatt.
Wyatt, yeah.
I was going to say Bray Wyatt. Wrong podcast.
Shout out to our Hard Hits fans.
And that, for example, right? And Amy Santiago and Jake Peralta.
Yep.
And for this one, you have Kristen Bell's character Eleanor with Chidi lah. Yeah. So all that, I don't know, that love. I just love how he does this overarching love stories.
Yeah.
Very well tied up.
I mean, it could go wrong so many ways, right? It could just end up being like a serialized like 50 First Dates, you know, where because they're constantly just
tapping their memory again.
Right? But the whole idea of memory and identity that they explore via the love story arc is fascinating, and I think that they've a lot of complex emotions that Eleanor in particular cycles through, right? Or even Chidi, which was rare for the first 2 seasons, definitely come true, and I am quite happy the way that they allowed that to grow, and then the way in which they put a conclusion, or at least a kind of a
cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger on that.
Yeah. I feel like what keeps The Good Place fresh is its cycle of reinvention, which is really good lah. And then they're making really clever jokes and clever puns, but like you both mentioned, at its core, the show is about heart lah, and it's characters' emotional arcs lah. You want to root for them, and that's why in the end, when Chidi and Eleanor, after all that they've been through, have to separate once again for various plot mechanics, I mean, it still hits hard lah. So they've spent so much of the season kind of reinventing themselves. You know, how do we start? We started in like a timeline redux, so to speak. And then we go to a Touched by an Angel kind of show where they try to save souls around the world. And then we go into Janet's Void, and then we go into The Good Place lobby or accounting area. And then we actually go to the Bad Place, and then we have to recreate the whole thing all over again, you know. So I think they cycled through like dozens and dozens of premises, and then we come full circle into this. That's all well and good. That tickles my brain lah, but like the reason we want to keep watching is because we love these characters.
Correct.
And emotionally they are very grounded lah. All of them. Except maybe
Tahani.
I mean, Tahani is great. She does have a good arc with the sister, which grounds her. It's I was talking more about Jason lah.
Because of his wackiness lah.
So because he feels like the one most disconnected in this season, because he doesn't really do anything except to be comedy fodder.
Enter that one part in where he had to shine lah.
He's a bit like correct. He's a bit like a Scully in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
A bit,
or that guy from Parks and Rec, the one that everyone hates. I forgot his name. Every Mike Schur show has that.
Has that character.
I'm surprised you never mentioned Jim and Pam lah, which was the original like it couple for Mike Schur shows.
I wanted to say that, but then like, I mean, that's The Office lah.
Yeah, that's The Office. He was just a staff writer.
Yeah, that's why I didn't mention it.
Yeah. So I love that the finale they actually kind of strip back on the jokes, and they strip back on the narrative inventiveness to kind of focus on what started the show in the first place. It was full circle more than a narrative sense, but in an emotional sense as well.
Yeah, that's true. And also that the whole idea of the point system being
flawed. Then spoiler alert, no humans have entered The Good Place in 500 years
because of how complicated the world is and unintended consequences.
I love the way that they broke that down.
Yeah, right.
It was brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So they are distilling this very complicated idea that morality doesn't exist in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
And it's correctly telling us that it's getting increasingly harder to be a good person when good intentions are no longer enough. You know, every choice we make in modern society is complicit in some evil or another.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to be a good person. Too many complicating variables, shall we say lah.
Correct.
So I love that little lesson in moral philosophy. It's something that they do very, very well.
I agree.
Over and over again in the show. What else stood out to you in this particular season?
Finally we see people from The Good Place properly, and how annoying they are.
They presented them in kind of almost a hippie,
like a neighborhood council kind
Yeah.
of those neighborhood estate watch kind of people.
but the neighborhood estate watch from like the gentrified area of
Yeah,
Brooklyn. You know?
correct.
Yeah,
You know, and
with
they have
the
that token-
put up sweaters
the
and
token
the,
white black guy.
yeah, and the over politeness.
Yeah, it's
and
so annoying.
The bureaucracy
And
and
the bureaucracy.
and they
yeah.
mean well, but they're just not going to do anything about it except
Yeah.
discuss.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And therefore, they didn't realize that for 500 years, no one has entered the good place. Lah.
Or they didn't care.
or they didn't care.
Or they didn't
Exactly.
care, like-
I think for immortal beings that are trillions of years old, 500 years
It's
isn't-
nothing lah.
It's nothing to
Yeah.
them lah. So it's just a blink. That's why they were saying that in a few million years time we'll get to your complaints.
Yeah,
Because to them it's quite nothing lah.
correct.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. How would you rate this third season of The Good Place?
I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Isa?
I'm giving it a 7.5.
Nice. I'll give it an 8 as well. Continues to be one of our television's smartest, most emotionally engaging comedies out there lah.
Smart with heart.
Yes.
Smart with heart lah. The Mike Schur staple lah.
Yeah.
If we could review Brooklyn Nine-Nine, we would as well
We
lah.
would, yeah.
It's a similar formula.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, we're gonna kind of talk about something a little more
Cerebral.
artsy.
No, actually, the other one's also cerebral.
No, Good Place is very cerebral,
That's
but
why.
it's accessible. You see,
Yeah.
Suspiria is inaccessible to some people.
Yeah.
But I guess I just spoiled it. We'll be talking about Luca Giudicino's Suspiria remake, which might be divisive amongst fans and amongst us, and even amongst fans of the original Dario Argento Suspiria, because it's so different.
Yeah.
I mean, on a personal level, I consider it to be a masterpiece. I really love this film. It's kind of carnal in a very like visceral way. It has a lot of rich subtext about power structures, about national guilt that is very uniquely German.
Yep.
A lot of themes about motherhood, and quite effective body horror.
Yes.
Plus, you got Tom Bjork's spellbinding score.
Yes.
Some intoxicating dance sequences which was missing from the original Suspiria. This film to me feels like witchcraft. You guys watched it with me at GB Paya Lebar together.
Yeah.
Shouts out to Anticipate Pictures who brought this movie in, because no other distributor
yeah.
would take a chance on
Yeah.
this. What do you guys think about Luca Giudicino's Suspiria remake?
Honestly,
Yeah.
it freaked the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Like it was very well made, right? There was a lot of very tight choreography when it comes to the dancing, when it comes to the body horror. That scene with the dancer getting spoiler alert, ripped to shreds, right?
Yeah.
Those were really fantastic things, lah. It's just
Yeah, I think what was
Yeah.
very telling is that I was sitting next to Hardy, and every time something got extremely fever dreamish, right?
Yeah.
You would just turn to me and you ask me, "Am I awake? Is this like?"
oh yeah,
am I
because I
dreaming?"
fell asleep.
Yeah, so I mean, usually, I mean, we know that Hardy falling asleep at movies has become a thing, and a good indicator of how well a movie does. But in this particular case, I think it kind of like bled into
Yeah, I did.
the actual movie
It was
itself,
mad.
right? There were just
Yeah.
moments in time where he wasn't sure if he was dreaming, based on what was going on at that point in time.
Yeah, that was mad.
fascinating.
Yeah, I felt that while it shared the same period setting and atmosphere as Dario Argento's 1977 original, I think this. I know we saw it in 2019 lah, but it's actually the 2018 version. We just got it late lah.
okay.
This 2018 version of Suspiria is a radical reimagining that's very different, and I feel of superior thematic density than Dario Argento's version. The original Suspiria became a cult classic because of its evocative imagery
Yeah.
and kind of revolutionary use of color and composition, but it has less to say cerebrally than Luca Giudicino's one. Yeah. And comparing them is obviously inevitable. It's
Of
a
course,
remake, of
yeah.
course, but it will also be strangely unfair considering they're so dissimilar. This version looks to evoke the same sense of disgust and foreboding, but it's essentially a companion piece with narratives of differing intent. I think it's disorienting and disturbing.
Yes,
That's why I
yes.
thought it was good as a horror film.
Oh yeah. It
Yeah.
worked that way. I like how they use the graphical nature of certain scenes to great effect.
Yeah.
You know that last scene where the last part, spoiler lah, when everybody dies.
Yeah.
I felt that was well deserved. Like it got us there, and then it showed us in one brilliant take.
Yeah.
Every how they choreographed it was great lah.
Yeah.
And it's a masterful film,
Mm.
but I don't like it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
that's totally
Like
fair.
I watch it and I loved how much effort and how much thought was put into it, and I recognize that,
Yeah.
but it's I just couldn't connect with the film for some reason.
Like for me, it's kind of different because I loved the film, but I have some major issues with it at the same time. You know, I think it's also because of the thematic complexity, and they're trying to put so many things right into that. I do feel that it drops off in certain areas, and for me came at the climax. Like, as well choreographed as it was supposed to be, I felt as though like certain things weren't, certain elements in the climax weren't deserved. Right, like I needed more background about certain things. I needed more lore. I needed more. Like, I don't expect me to fill in the gaps at that particular segment just because it's the climax.
Okay.
Right. So the resolution of everybody dying doesn't necessarily resolve everything for me as a viewer lah. And I took issue with that. In fact, all the way up to that point, I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? And then I felt a little disappointed once I left the cinema because I thought it could have been better. Yeah.
Right. I guess in conclusion, how would you guys rate this?
I'll give it, for me, a 7 out of 10 lah.
Wow. For a film that you didn't like?
I didn't like, but then I get the masterfulness of it. You know, I get that how, like, the choreography was brilliant, like the dance sequences, everything, the body horror, everything was on point. It just didn't connect to me. I don't know why.
So you're saying that it had good parts, but it is lesser than the sum of its parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so 7 out of 10 is perfectly fair. What about you, Isa?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I mean, I love the film and I've watched it twice. But I felt the same way both times, right? I was just trying to like see if there was something I missed, if I wasn't paying attention. So many good things, so many great things, but at the end of it, I still felt unsatisfied when I was done.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it 7.5.
Nice. I'll give it, actually, for someone who likes it a lot, in fact loves it, I'm rating it at 8.5 out of 10, which actually isn't too far off from where you guys stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess this is a recommended film, although the caveat is that it is very artful.
Might not be for everyone.
It might not be for everyone. Similar to, I mean, we've reviewed movies like Mandy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
A quiet taste. You might like it, you might not, but give it a shot lah. Especially if you are a fan of the original and you want to either complain or you want to, people hate remakes,
Yeah, I get
right?
it. Yeah.
Argento isn't a fan, right?
Argento hates it. Yeah, he hates Tom York's score as well lah.
That one I don't get, because Tom York's score was masterful as fuck.
Well, but like the Goblin score was also in its own way.
He thought it was too pretty lah.
Okay.
Yeah. It didn't evoke the kind of industrial, disturbing nature of the original Goblin score.
Right.
So that was the issue lah. Next one, we're a bit late to this. We were supposed to cover it last month, but this particular title came out towards New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I did.
We were busy. We had already recorded the previous episode.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Too bad.
lah. But I mean, we got around to it because this is a significant title. Like, we're talking about Netflix's Black Mirror Bandersnatch.
Yep.
Boy, did I get way too invested in this when I first watched it.
Me too.
Black Mirror's latest, what they call movie, because it's not part of the actual series. It's not part of the season. It's a standalone movie. It's a technological hit trip that is kind of a choose your own adventure game, disguised as the narrative lah.
Yeah.
By inviting the audience to make choices for its game developer protagonist, Charlie Brooker immerses you into like a dozen layers of meta as you try to rewatch or replay and make as many different choices as possible, to kind of discover as many story permutations as possible. Roughly, I spent about 4 hours ish, maybe 5 on this, and I discovered 5 totally different endings, multiple story combos. Sure, some were small detours, false paths, or minor variants, but some choices led to some really, really radical outcomes that totally changes the context and your understanding of the story lah.
Yeah, man.
Even by Black Mirror standards, I thought this was a mindfuck. That being said, I had like a couple of small issues with it.
Same.
But I mean, let's get your thoughts first lah. What do you guys think of this?
Well, to be fair, it was a good effort.
Yeah.
You spent about 4 hours too, right?
No, I spent about 2.5 to 3 hours. Significantly less than Hidze lah. But I still managed to come out with like 3 endings, a bunch of false, those like very short false endings. Because I'm a fan of adventure game books when I was young.
Yeah.
Think like Lone Wolf, all that kind of thing where or Goosebumps also I think had a series of books. So going in, I expected, I loved how well they integrated the technology into the film.
Yes.
It felt like the kind of 90s video games where the video realistic choose your adventure kind.
Yeah.
You know, like from the Sega Saturn or something like that.
Netflix had to totally recode everything just for this.
Yeah, exactly. So how well it was inserted into the Netflix browser was near perfect lah.
Yep.
Sadly, you cannot use it if you use Apple TV.
Yes.
As we found out.
Yes.
But then on your laptops or on your phone,
just HDMI. That shit.
because half of the game I actually played on my phone and half on the computer because I'm getting tired. So I went down to my bed and played it on my phone.
Right. Okay.
The remaining parts. I would say that 70% of the content that I found were not disappointing. It took you on a journey that you kind of not expect to go on lah. Especially with what's his name, Colin, right? And that video game character, how he is that game master in a way. Not game master, but rather a very important NPC lah.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. That would be the
Yeah. So like how he guides the POV character through this entire journey lah. I like how well made, how polished it seemed.
Yeah.
You know how seamless every scene went from each scene after you make the choices.
Yes. I mean that how smooth it was really surprised me. I think I wasn't expecting it to be that smooth.
Yeah. No loading screens. Nothing like no break in when as you are going through the story. It happens nearly immediately lah. Yeah. So that kind of seamlessness actually helps with the story more than. Yeah, but that's the technology that they're working with lah.
Correct. What do you think? Any other thoughts about its themes? What the story is as a narrative, Isa?
Bandersnatch is very interesting for me because in my day job I deal with games and game design, right? And
that's why I thought you had more insight about that.
About it.
I mean, first and foremost, this has definitely broken open the floodgates to what can be done as far as just using this choose your own adventure kind of format for brands or for companies or for storytelling, right? And for Netflix to have embarked on something that quite honestly is very, very ambitious it's a milestone for sure, right? Immediately when they announced it, I was just thinking about all the kind of user data that you can collect, why people tend towards one choice over another, why people choose what were the two cereals again?
Kellogg's and Frosties. Kellogg's Frosties and I forgot what the other one. Fruit Loops.
Yeah,
Fruit Loops,
right. So all these little things, right? It's all information. It's all data that companies like Netflix or any big data company, for example, would be able to use.
I hate Fruit Loops, by the way. I never picked it.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it, it was a communal thing. It was a social thing. We were doing it at a friend's place.
Okay.
Right. So that was about 3 hours or so, maybe about 5 endings. I revisited the entire thing maybe about 3 times in total, just to make sure that I could get all the different endings. But I mean, well, spoiler alert for some of you who haven't discovered some of the endings, right? The overarching moral of the story is that there is no choice, right? At the end of the day, the choices that you are making as a viewer, as a participant of this kind of experiment, is false because it's designed that way, right? And that's something that, as a game designer, you kind of understand at its very, very premise. We are giving you the illusion of choice. You're choosing between two things. It's not freedom of choice per se. Right. I thought it was very well executed. I thought that the true ending, which I think we all agreed was the true ending,
which was the toy ending. If you guys got that, but we won't spoil it.
Yeah. So I thought that was great. That felt the most kind of fitting in terms of what Black Mirror has consistently delivered for everything else. But it wasn't my favorite ending.
What was your favorite ending?
Jumping out the window.
Oh, nice.
Not jumping off the ledge, as some people.
Oh, you're talking about the meta ending.
The therapist ending. Where it's revealed. It's another layer of meta.
Yeah.
I like the acid treatment ending though.
I like the acid treatment ending. I thought the visuals of that were great, right? But my favorite is still the meta ending. Yeah,
I thought besides, you mentioned confronting the nature of choice and the illusion of free will and all of that. It also, addresses kind of the madness of contemplating infinite branching realities, which is a black hole that I've gone into sometimes. Like I'm sitting on my couch late at night just thinking about this. And it's pointless lah. And also on a more meta scale, your own complicity in making the choices that lead to some grisly and horrific outcomes lah. Yeah. That's what Black Mirror is all about, essentially, right? As a show.
Yeah, it is.
It isn't so much about technology as it's about how people choose to use it. Whether it's the character or whether it's us who is watching. As crazy as watching or playing this was, I can't imagine the sheer headache in terms of writing and producing this. It's a bit like the main character. I imagine Charlie Brooker was holed up in his room.
Yeah, he was.
The logistics of it feels exhausting and as maddening like, as a protagonist, as I mentioned. That being said, I think it functions better thematically as a concept piece rather than it does as a movie or as a game.
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't you feel like after this you wanted Netflix not to do this again?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's totally possible if everybody like throws money at them to kind of do this thing.
They've actually done it for some of the kids programming.
Oh.
Yeah, over in the children's section. Yeah.
Something that I don't really... except for like the animation that we watch, like Voltron and Carmen Sandiego. We wouldn't really go there, right?
Now, if they did that for Carmen Sandiego, I wouldn't mind. But we'll get to that later.
Because there's a game as well, right? I mean,
in a way, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So how would you rate this, I guess, in total?
Honestly, I'll give it a 7.5.
Same. I give it a 7.5 as well.
Yeah.
High five.
Yeah, same here. Well, I'll give it a 7 because at the end of it,
contrarian.
Like, yeah, it's not so much being contrarian. Like it works great as a proof of concept, right? Like kudos to Charlie Brooker and all the work that he's put into kind of this, but as a story, right? And as a story as part of the Black Mirror universe, sure. Like there are nods to it all over the place, and like everybody loves those like little things, right? But as a whole, it is impressive, but ultimately, the story is not great, lah. In my opinion. Again, like he was saying in an interview, right, that essentially he had to go back on a lot of things because like the writing didn't pan out, right? So in the same way, like if you've watched it enough times, as many people have, right, as Reddit has shown, then you kind of see the flaws in it as well.
Yeah, I do agree. I guess that concludes our much belated Black Mirror Bandersnatch discussion. But I think it actually, this amount of time that I had to think about it actually changed my opinion of Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Initially, I was just very awed by the technological innovation of it and just the radicalness of it lah.
Okay.
The more I thought about it, the less I liked it. So I mean, initially, like I came away with it. Wow, this is like an 8 or a 9 and that kind of thing. But the more I thought about it as how it functioned as a narrative or how it functioned as a game, it doesn't quite hold up lah. It isn't as impressive as its concept is.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in the gaming sense, right? We have a lot of games from Telltale, for example,
Which
where
are
far more superior in terms of storytelling, in terms of branching stories, especially their Game of Thrones series, their Walking Dead series, and recently their Batman series. So all those with really high quality things that you can do, you feel a lot more involved in the story rather than Netflix's viewer and character kind of relationship that they have lah.
I do agree. Yeah. Next up, I'll be discussing this with Isa because Hadi had reservists and could not watch this.
Glass.
Yes. Here we go. The long-awaited conclusion to M. Night Shyamalan's Secret Trilogy started in Unbreakable and shockingly continued in Split. A lot of something that a lot of people did not see coming. One of the big stories of last year actually was that Split was a secret sequel to Unbreakable. Like its title implies, I feel like this movie is half empty or half full, depending on how you look at it.
Fair enough.
To continue, that wordplay even further, Glass is a very accurate reflection of Shyamalan at its best and worst,
Yes.
creative tendencies, which is to say that his grand ambitions are clumsily executed. I feel like this film... Okay, it's gonna sound that I don't like it, but I like it more than you think I do. But this film is essentially a long close-up of Sarah Paulson as she monologues Shyamalan's dissertation on comic books as a medium, which might be cerebrally interesting to read as an essay on Wizard magazine, even if its conclusions are 2 decades too late. but it's also because of its chin-stroking nature, dramatically inert as a narrative.
Yeah, we're not joking. Like literally a third of this movie is just that.
The second act in the mental asylum was just Sarah Paulson talking about comic books and a treatise on it as a medium and how it's affected society.
Followed by Bruce Willis grunting.
Yeah, he really phoned it in.
Yeah. Okay, so overall, right? We were just talking about how surprisingly we had to defend Glass.
Yeah.
To other people who came to us to talk about it. Overall, like what were the things that people brought up that you felt needed to be defended?
Well, I thought that the major complaints with Glass was that Shyamalan lost it. He didn't know what he was doing. But I think it's clear when you're watching Glass that this is exactly the story that he wanted to tell all along, 19 years ago. In fact, Shyamalan's problem has never been that he doesn't know what he's doing. His problem is that he always knows what he's doing. And sometimes what he does and what he wants to do is indulgence. And it betrays audience expectations. But, fuck it.
Everybody else be damned. Yeah.
He's an auteur and he's going to do whatever he wants to do, which is part of why I respect him and part of why he is also frustrating. This entire movie is certainly interesting.
For sure.
It's an interesting treatise on archetypes and tropes.
Yep.
And it indulgently mirrors Shyamalan's own career in a meta-textual way because, he was at first hailed as an underdog hero.
Yep.
And then he is deconstructed as a delusional artist. And then he re-emerges through self-belief, which is exactly Bruce Willis's arc here. But it's so clumsily executed through pedantic dialogue, and just dialogue, by the way, which isn't Shyamalan's strong suit, that it hamstrings this trilogy's natural momentum, and most flagrantly it undercuts its own character's emotional arcs. The promise of a David Dunn versus the Horde showdown is briefly fulfilled before it meanders into kind of tedious ponderings and climaxes with an entirely new story that's too telegraphed via, I guess, Chekhov's camera.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess I am split on this broken film, but I did leave more satisfied than most because despite its massive flaws, I found it to be a thematically cohesive conclusion. This is more of an Unbreakable sequel than it is a Split sequel.
Yes, definitely.
That's why I felt like when he ties it up thematically, it actually works or as a concept piece. I am deeply respectful of Shyamalan's purity of vision and his adventurousness. For better or for worse, he pushes his wildest ideas to the fullest. Sometimes it's genius, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it completely betrays audience fulfillment or expectation or marketing in favor of an intellectual wank like this does. But whether it's bad or good, Shyamalan is a blunt instrument and he hammers his ideas home in the least elegant, untidiest way possible. That being said, the ideas are good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we would recommend this to anyone who has seen Unbreakable and Split. If you've only watched Split and you've not watched Unbreakable, please don't bother.
Yeah.
Right, because it's not it's not an Avengers movie where you can just jump in. Because again, like as Hits has mentioned, it's more of an Unbreakable sequel than a Split sequel.
Yeah.
For me, I think like so much of the disappointment that people have been voicing has to do with context, right?
Yeah.
We live in the age of superhero movies now, right? And who knows, this might have done better. But also, in a more immediate sense, the context of this taking place after Split provides great tonal shifts, which I think people were not ready for or expecting. And a lot of this could have been just done with, managing expectations. But at the same time, if you don't market a superhero movie, the way it's supposed to be marketed in this day and age, you're not going to get anyone to kind of like watch it, right?
Yeah. I mean, on some other silver lining plus sides, aside from the script which suffers from, exposition problems, second act pacing issues, it's actually, just in terms of just pure technicality, it's a beautifully directed film.
It is.
I mean, its color scheme is a bit unsubtle, but I enjoyed it because it's like a comic book. Plus James McAvoy is fantastic once again, scene chewing with all his multiple performances. His character, despite it not being a Split sequel or less so of a Split sequel, he actually single-handedly lifts this film because Bruce Willis is sleepwalking in this one, as he has done for the last 20 years. And Samuel L. Jackson is strangely kept on the bench until the end, despite this movie being named after him. I do understand why it's called Glass because, in the end, it is revealed to be really his movie.
Yeah, it is.
But there's not enough Samuel L. Jackson for me.
No, I mean, that's for sure. Third act, right? Third act is the only time that we kind of see him.
Pretty much.
So, McAvoy's performance. Like, I personally thought his performance was a lot more impressive here than it was in Split. Like, Split was all him, right? And all the various like personalities that he has to run through. You understand that. It's the premise of the story. But to see that within the context of Glass, right, was refreshing.
Yeah.
Right? And just him having like these quick moments where he just goes through so many characters at one more, juxtaposed with Sarah Paulson's long, winding, like discursive nature of identity. That to me really stood out, and that was the most enjoyable part of the movie overall.
How would you rate this as a in conclusion?
I'm gonna go with a 6.5.
Nice. I'm going for 6 out of 10. About the same lah, I guess. It fulfills the bare minimum of what I wanted it to be, so I'm satisfied.
Yeah, me too.
Because I felt it was cohesive lah. At the very least, you know, it to me, I know a lot of people from the marketing were expecting a superhero showdown. Knowing Shyamalan, I knew that wasn't going to be his thing lah. He doesn't do those kinds of movies, you know. So perhaps this is a problem of expectation and of promise that were not fulfilled. But I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, again, we would recommend you watch it if you've watched Unbreakable and you like that, and you watched Split and thought it was interesting as a sequel. This is definitely, it's not a must-watch, but you should watch.
Only if you've seen the other two. If you've seen the other two, then I feel it's a must-watch because it ties the trilogy up very neatly.
Yes, it does.
And it might even actually introduce a whole new world.
Well, we'll see if that happens, right? Given that it tanked, I would love to see this particular universe that they're trying to.
Wait, it tanked?
Yeah, it didn't make money.
Oh.
I mean, like it debuted number 1 at the US box office, 47 million lah. But considering that Shyamalan, this movie was not funded by Blumhouse or Universal, by the way. He signed a $28 million check, of his own money. So the current box office takings of like 40 million-ish, you're only gonna get 1/3 of it after you pay off the theaters and then and the production and all that. So he is working at a loss lah right now lah.
Okay.
But I mean, who knows? But because of the word of mouth being so poor, I don't foresee this movie to have legs. So that 48 million might just stay 48 million. He might get 1 or 2 million here and there, but not enough for him to suddenly become the new redemption story lah. His the Shyamalan Renaissance was very short-lived.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we're going back to Netflix now. Let's talk about the second and probably final season of The Punisher. We all loved season 1 very much. But The Punisher season 2 is a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion. It's good but not great, and I feel like a huge step down from season 1. The action is still amazing. The ultra violence is still copious. And John Bernthal is still a motherfucking beast. Watching him go savage is still immensely satisfying. But season 2 lacks the personal resonance, emotional anchor, and thoughtful themes that gave the first season such dramatic heft. Those sequel taglines, this time it's personal. Like back in the 80s, Die Hard 2, this time it's personal or whatever. The problem with The Punisher 2 is that it wasn't personal. Like, the Billy Russo thing didn't stick with me.
Nope.
The new story was just him looking for an excuse to kill people. This was just a fun outing soaked in blood and pulp, and it works for what it is. And if this was season 1, I would consider it a success because this is what I expected season 1 to be. But season 1 showed me that they could be better, they could be smarter, they could address themes of PTSD and violence and the consequences of violence in a more nuanced way, which is what disappointed me about this season, because I know it can be better. Those themes of PTSD and displacement that I talked about aren't really at play here, and the complex consequences of violence are just replaced with simple violence. On the bright side, I did enjoy the villains. I think John Pilgrim was great.
I love John Pilgrim.
I love the actor that played him. Plus, the Christian fundamentalists, conservative industrialists, or alt-right zealots, those are very relevant as villains, especially in this day and age. What do you guys think of this?
Okay, well, for me, honestly, I loved the addition of the new characters. Yeah, John Pilgrim's great. I really like the girl though.
Amy,
is that her name?
Yeah, Amy.
Georgia Wiggum.
Yeah.
Do you know who Shea Wiggum is? He was on Boardwalk Empire. He was on season 1 of The Punisher. This is his daughter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
If you've seen 13 Reasons Why, she's the girl from there as
well.
Yeah.
I thought she did a really good job in humanizing the Punisher.
Okay.
I mean, because we know that he has this huge PTSD thing, he, with his family getting killed and all that. But he was never close to anyone. Like he was close with Karen for a while.
He was close to his wife and children.
No, after the death.
Oh, right, yeah. And Billy also lah.
Yes, after all that,
Okay.
So he let go of all his connections, right? So for this girl who he suddenly rescued from a bar, with no connection to him
whatsoever,
at all, right? So there was just a happen chance kind of thing, lah.
Happenstance.
Yeah, sorry.
Happen chance. Can
also.
We invented a new word.
It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
But how she made the Punisher of Frank Castle care about more than just killing things, right? Which it's kind of sweet lah, It had a very Terminator 2 kind of feeling.
Oh.
I
get that.
You know what I mean? With John Connor and the T-800. Only that Frank Castle is human and not fucking and robot lah.
I get what you mean because Micro was totally cool with him killing.
Yeah.
In fact, there was that famous line from the trailer, right, where he says, I'm going to kill everyone. You okay with that? He's like, yeah.
Exactly.
So this is not Micro.
Exactly.
Where was Micro this season, by the way?
I have no idea.
You would think that when he needed help hacking and shit, right, he would have asked Micro.
Correct.
But I guess he doesn't want to disturb because Micro finally has his family back and everything.
Exactly.
True.
So he's doing his own thing lah. I actually enjoyed Jigsaw's story.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
I hated it so much.
You know why?
Why?
Because usually amnesia stories, right, are rather fucked up lah. It's a very lazy way of writing, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time. But I felt like this was like his fear of that, the white skull thing, of him really not knowing what happened and how he was going through this moment of confusion and shit, right? I felt that it was mostly well written lah, for me. His relationship with the doctor, for example, I thought it was very well developed also. And it felt very natural that both of them were to actually fall in love lah.
The doctor is actually played by Maggie Sawyer in Supergirl, if you guys recognize her.
All these little cameos of other people.
Billy Russo really has his way with like brown girls.
Yeah. That was the thing when all three of them were on screen together.
It's like, you have a type, bro.
You have a type.
You really have a type, yeah. Even with amnesia, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I felt like that tied in perfectly because his amnesia, it crystallized that Billy Russo is Billy Russo even without his memories. Because in the end, he devolved into the greed and the attention for power and all of that.
The only problem I had with the whole Billy Russo story, right, is that they didn't fuck up his face enough. He's still too pretty.
No, exactly. Like Hits and I were just like it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, you need to fuck that face up a bit more. Like, go have a missing nose or something.
Because as of right now,
he's still handsome.
I would trade my face for his face.
I would too.
Any day.
With all those scars, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think he might look more grizzled and handsome lah. Like, because he used to be just a pretty boy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So that was one thing. How when he finally saw Frank being the Punisher, when with the stupid
the review
white skull, the review
during the heist.
During the heist, correct. That was a great scene. I was like, oh shit. And all that fear crystallized in his head, and then how he went into survival mode and all that thought. So I felt that all those parts were very well deserved. It's just that it was two very disconnected stories for me. Like the Billy Russo story and that Pilgrim story. For me, it was just the disconnect was just too far.
Yeah,
they introduced such a great new villain, and then they kind of dropped him for 5-6 episodes.
Correct, to focus back on Billy Russo.
Yeah.
So like it felt very.
And in the end, Billy and the Punisher didn't even really have a confrontation.
Correct.
He just lay there dying.
Yeah.
He just, spoiler alert, he came up to him and just shot him.
I mean, well-deserved death also lah. How the surgeon just took his money and left him
left it in a dumpster,
in the
literally.
dumpster.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this surgeon not bad.
I mean, he's one of those criminal surgeons. What do you expect?
Someone a drunk criminal surgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So apart from the little girl, he also I really enjoyed the relationship with him and one-leg guy. Curtis, yes. Yeah. That kind of thing. So I felt those characters really stood out for me. Curtis and the girl Amy, and how they actually kind of round out Frank Castle for me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more like a moral compass kind of conscience.
For me, I wish that they had focused on either Billy Russo this season or Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Instead of having two simultaneous storylines which were very disconnected.
Yeah.
What about you, Isa?
Well, for me, I was actually very annoyed. I think this is for me. Near the end of the season, Amy goes like, "You just wanted an excuse." right? And it feels to me like this entire season was just basically a series of excuses for violence.
I did like that because he tried to play it off as I'm saving this girl because I want to help her.
Yeah.
But she calls him out on it by saying that you were just looking at an excuse. You were
Exactly.
okay. You found me in a bar and you wanted to kill a bunch of motherfuckers and I was your excuse. And I thought like her being written so unlikably really helped in exposing that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
What was amazing, like she had these like very kind of like pointed questions, right? About so everything that people are gonna tell you to not ask someone with PTSD. She basically broke all the rules and goes like, "Oh, do you think of them often? Like, do you imagine what she'd be like if she grown up and things like that?" Those are all things that like people is like, no, like just don't ask him that, right? She doesn't care.
Yeah.
She's so far removed from the type of life that he has lived and the kind of trauma that he has suffered, right? That she doesn't care, right? And that exposes a lot of things. That becomes a point of contention. I did wish that they explored that a bit more, but with so many things competing at the same time.
Correct.
Right? And not competing like in harmony. You know what I mean? Like if they did the Jigsaw arc if the Jigsaw arc and the Pilgrim arc kind of like melded together to create a greater sense of like time pressure, right? It would have been great, but it ends up being very draggy and unfocused. At the end of the day, for me, I thought that Russo's arc was annoying. I thought Madani was annoying, more so than last season. And like it's just it felt like spillover, right? If we're talking about PTSD and all of that, those things we did in season 1, and I thought they were very well dealt with. To bring those things into season 2 when they could have focused a lot more deeper on
the Christian fundamentalist aspect,
which is more relevant, right, at this point in time.
But it felt like just glossed over a bit.
Yes, I agree. Like so many compelling things. John Pilgrim, I don't know what the actor's name is, but phenomenal acting.
Good acting, yeah.
And I really enjoyed that, and I just thought that we could have used a lot more of that instead of like the half-hearted ending to both arcs that they explored this season.
The 6 episodes or the whole middle stretch where they just dumped John Pilgrim for Billy Russo's amnesia mystery. You know, you've kind of followed him trying to figure out who he is, why Frank did this to him, blah blah blah. I mean, that really dragged the show for me because I know lah.
Yeah.
I mean, so
We knew you were an asshole.
It has no like relevance to us as an audience lah. More to him as a character lah.
Yeah.
But then like, just hurry it up already lah. I know already.
Correct. Like we can wrap it up in one episode, you know.
Correct, yeah. I've seen that they can do better. I thought its treatment of, unlike its first season, its treatment of female characters was very disappointing this season.
Oh, definitely.
But Madani was just shown as a goof, total goof.
Like just getting into traps.
Amy Bendix, you know, I know they wanted her to be this petulant child, but you know, she felt ungrateful, kept getting into trouble. If they wanted her to be like this streetwise grifter, you know, they didn't do it very well.
Yeah. She was not streetwise at all. She was like lost all the time.
And not just the women. I mean, outside of Curtis, he's portrayed well. I mean, Mahoney, complete buffoon this season. He's one of the characters, I mean, besides Turk that has been in nearly every show that Marvel Netflix has, you know. But he just feels like a complete buffoon this season.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any need to drag him like that. You know, like so what? Just because you've written Madani in a particular way where she's fucking up for this season doesn't mean that you need to put Mahoney down.
Yeah.
You know, in order to kind of like exacerbate that.
So basically, law enforcement sucks.
No, which is kind of the point of Punisher. That's why he's needed, right?
Yeah. But you know, you've seen, sorry, off topic a bit, but you know all those police officers with the Punisher tags? The one where they put the skulls on their cars?
Irony.
The irony.
Yeah. It's very scary, especially because it's American police officers that do this as well.
Yeah, and someone puts their Blue Lives Matter and with the Punisher skull. I'm like, you do realize what the Punisher skull means, right?
I know,
Apparently
right?
not.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I guess in conclusion, how would you guys rate this? I know Hadi liked this more than us, so we'll start this with Hadi.
So last season I would have given it about 8.
I give it about 8.5. Yeah.
So this season, even though I liked it, I mean, I'll still give it an 8.
Nice.
Because I still enjoyed most of it, even though there were certain things that I had issues with, the story disconnecting and all that stuff. I'll still give it an 8 because highly enjoyable, very easy to watch through, go through it, and I like the introduction of the new characters.
Okay, how about you, Isa?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah. That being said, still one of the more enjoyable Marvel Netflix RIP, but still one of the more enjoyable franchises overall. I thought Daredevil season 3 was slightly better this time round. But I would still recommend it. I feel like if they were to continue the whole Punisher franchise, like, it fits, right? Season 2 fits. But it's a bit of a slump because we've already seen how good it can be. And I thought with a bit more focus and a few less excuses, this could have been a great season. So it's a 6.5 for me.
Okay. This was a 5.5 out of 10 for me. I didn't like it that much. Still thought it was good, hence the passing grade.
I am the only one that gave it such a high grade.
Yeah, but overall, that's the point of the discussion.
I mean, I still highly recommend it.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we actually have our first ever, not quite in studio, but our first ever genre equality interview. We have an interview with acclaimed actor Daniel Dae Kim, who was actually in town last month as part of the jury panel for the Singapore International Film Festival. I got a chance to sit down with the Korean American actor for a roundtable interview to discuss, his various topics, from his upcoming role in Hellboy, the new reboot starring David Harbour, to his memories of playing Jin on Lost, which is entirely me. The rest of the journalists on this roundtable weren't having it, but I was just like Jin, Lost.
You're a Lost fanboy.
I mean, I'm a huge Lost fanboy. We've discussed this many times. Also, recently he's more of a producer director. He's kind of stopped acting as much, so he's more a behind the scenes guy. And
did you talk to him about like Asian American?
He brought it up himself. I mean, he was a huge proponent for Asian American representation in entertainment and genre filmmaking in general. He actually talks about how on the topic of Lost and why he's acted in so many genres, because he's been in Star Trek, he's been in Angel, he's been in a bunch of genre properties. So he talks about why like Gene Roddenberry was instrumental in making genre such an inclusive medium for actors of his kind, because in the beginning he couldn't get any work except for genre work. So this is actually a roundtable interview, so you'll hear other journalists asking questions, but I pipe in with a ton of Lost stuff. So enjoy. Could I talk to you a little bit about the new Hellboy reboot? I mean, personally, as an Asian American actor, how important was it for you to play the role of Ben Damon, especially after the recent, whitewashing controversies in Hollywood? What does the character mean to you, and what's the approach that you're going to bring to it?
I think it was significant. The symbolism of it was significant. And after my departure from 5-0, I felt like it was the right role for me to take, given the way it all evolved.
Right.
I have so much respect for the actor who actually stepped down from the role, a man by the name of Ed Skrein, who has since become a good friend, because we have such shared values. I actually sought him out after I got the role, and I invited him to have lunch in London when I was in Europe shooting Hellboy, because I wanted to tell him face to face how much I appreciated what he did. Because what I did wasn't so significant. What he did was very significant.
Interesting.
So being the industry for that long, right, how do you think that landscape of representation has changed? Is this the time right now where I would say Asian American and or minority groups are the time to shine in a sense?
Yes, I think there are a number of stars that are aligning in our worldwide culture that are bringing Asian awareness to a peak level. I hope it's not the highest level. I hope this is just the beginning, but there's an awareness of Asian arts and Asian cinema and Asian culture globally that hasn't been there before, and so I think this is the start of something good.
So taking it from a slightly different angle, because for us in Asia, it's slightly positioning is slightly different, since for us diversity means something else. So I'm just curious to think from the outsider looking in. Do you have any thoughts about coming from the other side?
I do, because in America, diversity is such a hot topic at the moment and something to be desired. But I hope that the focus on diversity in America spreads through the idea of diversity throughout the world, because I know Asian countries can be nationalistic, and Asian countries are not necessarily the most diverse countries either. So this is not just something that should be talked about in America. This should be something that should be discussed around the world. And especially as we have conflicts like we do in the Middle East and, you know, and in parts of Asia, you know, between ethnic groups. It's something that we should be mindful of, because ultimately we all have to learn how to live together.
I kind of have a follow-up question on that. Yeah, because with this diversity discussion, I kind of feel like we are obliged to support any project with like all Asian cast or like female directors. Yeah, what's your take on that?
That should never. I don't believe that should be of more importance than whether the project is a quality project with talented people. This is not a charity. We're not here to take untalented people and lift them up into places of prominence. But what we are here to do, I think, but what is changing is that we're taking talented people who haven't had an opportunity to do what they're able to do and give them that chance. That's very important, and that's a very important distinction. And the other part of that equation is that if you are talented in any activity, let's say you're a baseball player, you might have all the talent in the world, but if no one lets you play in a game, you're not going to get better. It's the same with show business. There have been many Asian American actors, writers, directors that I've experienced in my career who had as much talent as anyone else I know, regardless of race. But they have not been able to get better because they haven't had the chance to get better. They haven't had, for instance, like if there's a romantic lead who's an Asian male, how many do you know that have had a chance to do even one of those projects, let alone 2 or 3, and build a career like someone like Hugh Grant, whom I love, and it's nothing against Hugh Grant, but when there are no opportunities, how do you get better? And so it's about identifying those opportunities and giving people that chance. And now I think that's starting.
Personally, for yourself, how do you pick projects, be it film, stage, producing, behind or in front of the camera?
It's a number of things, and I don't say yes to every project for the same reason. But you know, it always starts with the story for me. Is it a story I think is worth telling? Is there a character that I feel has an interesting journey or an arc or a challenge that I haven't done before? What's the representation look like for this character? Am I an Asian among other Asians, and what is the statement that that's making? And what is the statement that it's making if I'm an Asian among non-Asians? And you know, what are the ramifications of what my character does for how Asian Americans in general are seen? How much are they paying me? Who are the people? Who are the people I'll be working with? All of these things are considerations, and it's not always equal. It's not like a spreadsheet. You know, it's really just what moves me, and among those criteria.
Okay, so you worked on the US adaptation of The Good Doctor for years, and he's since become one of the highest rated TV shows. So how would you summarize your entire journey in a nutshell? And what's the most important lesson that you have learned following on from his question?
I think it's what I outlined earlier. It's, you know, that was not a typical path for a TV show. Once a TV show gets rejected, usually it just disappears. It fades away. But again, it's a question of when you decide to give up. And for me, I didn't feel like I could give up on that project. So I bought the rights back with my own money and started again. And that's why it took 4 years to bring to the screen. But it's a happy ending because all of that effort paid off. But it's just an example of how tenacious you have to be in this business. Someone once said to me that there's no room for you in show business. You have to make room. And I think that's the truth. Because whether you decide to give up or not, show business will keep going. But if you really want to make a mark, you have to make that mark. And you have to make yourself necessary.
So does that mean your skill set now has to expand? So beyond being an actor, you kind of have to go to being a creator or producer. you feel like that's kind of the requirements or kind of the needs of the changing landscape?
I think the needs of being a producer are different from being an actor. Whether I've had to expand my skill set, I'm not sure. I think I have something in me that allows me to be a decent producer. And even when I was starting off as an actor, I thought to myself, I would like to create and produce. And so it's something that I'd always had in the back of my mind. I will say that I learned a lot over the past couple of years as a producer about not only how the industry works, but how I see myself as an actor.
Well, you've done a lot since, I mean, first you came out, you're now a producer, you've directed, you've obviously starred in major projects. But is the role that you still get noticed for the most still Jin from Lost?
Yeah, I think so, and that's okay. I'm very proud of that role. So,
no, I'm a huge fan, so I just have to ask.
No, it'd be much worse if I was noticed for something I was ashamed of. Yeah, I think that was the project that really made me known around the world, and so I'm grateful for it. And it's a project that artistically I'm proud of as well.
I mean, but looking back over, I mean, it's been a long time since the show ended. What were your memories of playing Jin, and what did the character mean to you, or all these years later?
I think the challenges of playing Jin are something that stays with me, even now. Working in another language and what it meant to have a Korean on American television, speaking Korean and not English. And I think the other thing that I'll always remember is the friendships, the people that are friends even to this day. Because, like any workplace situation, you're not friends with everyone at work.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you have a couple of good friends that you meet at work. And I have a couple of those good friends, and that's a good thing.
I have another question for you. I think, even beyond Lost, your initial roles, I think when I first noticed you were in a lot of genre projects, from maybe, I guess, Angel to Divergent and stuff like that. What is it about genre that attracts you as an actor or as a creative?
Well, to be candid, it was really the place that was most accepting of non-white actors.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
When Gene Roddenberry created Star Trek and put a diverse cast in the late 60s, early 70s, he was 50 years ahead of everyone else. And so it was because of that we had, in sci-fi projects, always an Asian character.
Right.
But he didn't have to do that. That's how he saw the world. And so genre in general has been a lot more open to diverse casting. And I like genre. But it wasn't like I was specifically gearing my career toward genre, but that's where I was being hired, because that's where the opportunities were.
Any last words for a young actor starting out or a young filmmaker starting out, for example?
Don't do it. No, I'm only half joking. This is a very difficult industry. If you feel like, I want to try this, but I'm also really good at this other thing, do the other thing, because it's probably easier, and this is not something where you can just kind of go in and say, this will be a hobby, then I'll just give it a try. If you're lucky enough to succeed that way, I bow my head to you. But the amount of effort that it takes and long-term effort is significant. So consider that, and then if you do decide to pursue it with everything you have. And as I said the other day, be good at what you choose to do. If you're an actor, be a good actor. Take classes, watch cinema, get your iPhone out and make a short film, do all of these things. Be less concerned about how many Instagram followers you have and more concerned about developing a technique for being an actor. So that would be my advice.
And that was our interview with Daniel Dae Kim. I would like to thank the Singapore International Film Festival for helping us out with this one. We also in an upcoming episode, the next episode actually, we have an interview with the cast and crew of a Filipino horror movie called Eerie. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be having tons of interviews coming up on genre equality. Okay, now we're going to jump into a little segment we have called Quick Hits, where I round up a bunch of genre stuff that my co-hosts have not seen because they are busy living their lives while I'm watching TV shows and movies. But I mean, my job is also to watch movies and TV shows, so that is my life. What you gonna do? I'm a giant nerd. Okay, the beginning of Quick Hits is actually, I think, my favorite title that I'm going to talk about on this episode. It's a Japanese horror comedy called One Cut of the Dead. This Japanese zombie comedy was actually shown at the Japanese Film Festival. That's where I caught it, but it's actually available for wide release now in Shaw and in Cafe, I believe, so definitely check this out. This Japanese zombie comedy is triple layers of meta. Okay, so its first 40 minutes is a B-grade romp shot in one take and in real time. So it follows a film crew shooting a zombie movie, and they are attacked by real zombies.
Wait, what?
So it's a 40-minute single take film, a bit like like Haunting of Hill House, that episode. So it's just 40 minutes just straight. So this director, you see him struggling to get genuine performances of fear and stuff like that from his actors. So it's a bit megalomaniacal. And then when the real zombies hit, he just takes his camera and is like, yeah, this is my movie, and he just follows everyone around.
Okay.
So the second half of this movie, after that movie wraps, is the DIY production of the first half. So it is a movie within a movie within a movie. So then you follow the DIY production. There is this studio that approaches this director saying that I have this idea for our new streaming service. It's about a zombie film crew that gets attacked by zombies, and how are you going to execute this? So it's kind of a behind the scenes comedy of errors that forces the cast and crew to improvise some of the first half's more baffling moments. Because there's some moments in the first half of the movie that are just straight up weird lah. Why are actors just staring to the distance? Why is this guy looking confused? Blah blah. Now you see the behind the scenes comedy of errors that forces that to happen. So somebody is drunk. You have an alcoholic on set. Somebody can't react really well, and then some cameras are not working. So you kind of see the behind the scenes production of that. So some of the continuity errors and sluggish or bizarre moments in the first movie or the first half of this movie is explained later through, it's like reverse engineered jokes lah. They give you the punchline first, they show you the punchline without context, and then they give you the setup later in the second half. So it's reverse joke telling lah. I thought it was very clever. But more than that, it's not just a movie about meta zombie filmmaking. It actually is a movie about indie filmmaking and the joys of creating art. It captures this thrilling show must go on spirit of shoots such as this. And One Cut of the Dead it's ingenious, it's bonkers, it's meta fun with its movie within a movie within a movie conceit. And it's a laugh out loud love letter to low budget genre filmmaking lah, emphasizing that the greatest joys of creating art are the imperfections of the process. Some of us who are in bands here, or who create art, whether you're a writer, a videographer, or whatever, some of the most joyous moments are mistakes, or when you disagree with your collaborators, and then you put out a product, but in the end you're proud of it, and some of your fondest memories are those disagreements or those mistakes. It's just about the process of creating art and how one can consume art without knowing what the process is. Brilliant film. It's a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Wait, I heard that this film was budgeted at 50,000 or 40,000, but then it earned 30 million or something in the box office.
Correct. Yeah, it's gaining a new lease on life. Yeah, it's incredible. It's actually it surpassed Glass actually as a worldwide budget, worldwide gross lah. With a budget of $50,000 only. So I mean, this is what indie filmmaking is all about lah.
And the director was in Singapore, right?
Director was recently in Singapore for the Japanese Film Festival, along with the composer of this film. Our friends Isong and Raihan and Chris went to watch it. So shouts out to them.
The only reason I knew this was because I bumped into them after the show, after the movie.
Oh, you were at Shaw as well?
Yeah, I had an appointment there.
Nice. Okay. Next up, we'll be talking about the latest season of Doctor Who. Chris, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Chris Chibnall?
Yeah, close enough.
Chris Chibnall. He takes over as the showrunner from Stephen Moffat, as Doctor Who's groundbreaking 11th season finds Jodie Whittaker beginning her journey as the 13th Doctor. And also, a lot of people have discussed this, the series' first female Doctor, alongside 3 new companions. This fresh start has certainly proven to be a boon for the long-running sci-fi procedural, at least judging by the energy and joy of its latest season. In particular, I have to recommend 2 episodes. The first one is entitled Rosa. It's set in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955.
Rosa Parks.
It's about Rosa Parks.
Okay.
A doctor and her friends find themselves in the deep south of America. As they encounter a seamstress by the name of Rosa Parks, they begin to wonder whether someone is attempting to change history. This was a beautifully written episode about segregation. Next up is an episode called Demons of the Punjab. It features the doctor's companion Yasmin traveling in time to visit her grandmother during her youth in the partition of India. But everyone gets caught up in the tragic bloodshed of that era. So there is a political potency and poignance to these episodes that make them stand out, as opposed to just your regular Doctor Who fare. In the end, all of them are fun and worth a watch, to be honest, even the ones that are just regular Doctor Who type episodes. That being said, this new Doctor Who is still finding its sea legs, and there are some teething pains. New creative crew, new actors, new showrunner, but the ingredients are there for something great. So
how's Jodie though? As Doctor?
Jodie is fantastic. Jodie is the best part of the thing. The worst part of Doctor Who is that it tries too much to emphasize that we are still Doctor Who and goes back to old tropes purposefully. So there's some episodes that are just normal Doctor Who episodes, and
a lot of cosmic screwdriver kind of thing.
Purposefully not inventive to kind of please older fans, who are very angry about now got female Ghostbusters, now got female Doctor Who.
But to be fair, she's not really the first female Doctor Who.
No, I know,
right?
I know.
So that's why I don't know why the fans are angry at this.
Fans like to be angry.
Is it? Yeah, whatever lah. Fuck them lah.
Yeah. Okay. It's still 7 out of 10. Very good restart for the Doctor Who as a franchise.
Okay.
Jodie Whittaker, fantastic. Next up, we'll be talking about a particular animation series that myself and Isa really, really dearly love. It's Steven Universe, which wraps up its fifth season. Steven Universe, in its final arc, it heads back to the Gem homeworld, as Steven and his family of rebel Gem seek the help of the mysterious and all-powerful White Diamond to heal the corrupted Gems back on Earth. Besides giving us our clearest glimpse of Gem culture and their oppressive class divisions, the emotional space excursion gives a maturing Steven a better understanding of his mother and her complicated relationship with the family she betrayed back on the Gem homeworld. It all climaxes with a thrilling diamond war that is tragic and shocking and epic. The finale, entitled Change Your Mind, is 1 hour long, which is a huge change of pace from the usual 10-minute episodes. And that is suitably huge because it has a lot to do. There are huge robot fight sequences, new fusions that we haven't seen before, including an awesome design for a new fusion called Obsidian, which is a 5-way fusion between Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, and Steven. And I say 5-way because Garnet is actually 2 gems. And they have new songs, an emotionally complex message about childhood to deliver, and lots of other things lah. This was actually the climax to Rebecca Sugar's 5-season plan, and after 156 episode, the prospect of facing White Diamond felt larger and more insurmountable than anything that had come before, which is a credit to its storytelling and depictions of power levels here.
Yes.
The cool fusions and fights are requisite, but the key to changing White Diamond's mind is Steven's purity of heart, as it has always been. It's always been lah. And as sentimental as that sounds, Steven's childlike goodness can change hearts and minds, and the universe lah. Kind of finally fulfilling the title of the show. It's always been the message of the show, and I'm glad it stuck to it, despite all the huge fights and all of that. That being said, Steven Universe is so much better than other kid shows when it comes to thematic lessons. Too often, the message of kid shows are either twofold. One is some variation of you gotta grow up, or the other is you gotta stay a child as long as possible. This season 5 finale lays out the idea that there are childish qualities worth cultivating alongside others that should be discarded or avoided. So it's a refreshingly nuanced and accurate take on how a person should grow, and it speaks to the show's emotional intelligence. I don't know where Steven Universe goes from here, because this last arc wrapped up every single plot thread and gave us total emotional closure. I know there's a movie coming out in the fall on Cartoon Network, but I think this might actually be it for Steven Universe as a show. I don't know. There's not been any announcements beyond the movie, and if so, I just have to say this has been a blast. And Steven Universe has been truly one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. This was a 9 out of 10 for me.
Excellent stuff.
Next up, we're going from the combination of one animated series to the beginning of a new one. Netflix's reboot of Carmen Sandiego.
Yes.
Kanye San Diego.
I watched that.
My Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Kanye in San Diego.
Oh wow. I meant to say Carmen Sandiego. This is Netflix's new version. Now voiced by Gina Rodriguez, Carmen Sandiego comes across as fully fleshed with a new backstory created specifically for this show. What do you guys think about this new updated reboot of Carmen Sandiego on Netflix?
It's a child show, right?
It's a kid show.
Right.
But I mean, like, less kiddie than say the Dragon Prince or stuff like that, you know.
Correct.
But it's
Right.
still really good. Yeah.
I felt that they did such a. I mean, this is the reboot. I mean, this is a total new reboot, right?
Yes.
New universe and all that.
While still keeping the edutainment elements.
Yeah.
The educational
Correct.
entertainment elements
Yes,
of
you
the
know.
original.
Which I really loved.
Yeah.
Like, they had the whole backstory on Vile and on
Yep.
Acme and and all this, like the Interpol stuff and all that stuff. But I like how they introduce like the country they're going to,
Yeah.
what happens in the country.
Some interesting facts.
Yeah, so like when the I think the second episode was Indonesia,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Where
The
they-
Wayang Kulit
Correct.
Festival,
And
and
the-
then the soundtrack was soundtrack
the
to
gamelan, and the
yeah.
gamelan soundtrack was dope.
Yeah.
As she was fighting and all that stuff. I really raved about it. I really liked this series. It was very well made, simple animation style, nothing too flashy. But the story has so much heart. Carmen's reasoning on why she is doing what she's doing, the assistance that she has from player and
the brother and sister.
and the brother and sister, beautiful relationship there. And that reveal at the end of the season, it's just so well done. I really enjoyed the world building throughout this season. How nicely fleshed out Vile is.
Yes.
Acme not so much. We haven't really know much about them yet.
Yeah.
But how well they made Vile was very impressive. And all her adversaries, right? All their character tropes and flaws and all that, so well executed for me.
Agree.
So yeah, for me, I'll recommend this a good solid 8 out of 10.
What about you, Isa?
Carmen Sandiego is definitely a very nostalgic trip for me because I've played all of the games as a kid. I used to love that. I used to have this little notebook that I kept next to my goodness knows PC.
Yeah.
Just so that I could write down all the answers that I came across and made it kind of easier. So that's kind of one thing. And Carmen Sandiego as a game character has always been shrouded in mystery. There was never any need for them to give like a backstory or any need for an origin story. We don't really know who she is and what she's about. She's basically a plot device, right? With her image on the box cover. So for them to come out and to give her a very well thought out, very nuanced, very detailed backstory with her own motivations, with her own struggles and all of that, really made it. It was a trip for me. I really enjoyed it. The animation style is very reminiscent of She-Ra. As is the origin story.
Yeah, finding out that the organization you work for is evil and then turning to the other side.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it hits all those beats, but in a very kind of like different way.
Better than She-Ra.
Yeah, for sure. The music is also definitely better than She-Ra.
I enjoy like the jazzy bebop vibe of this crime caper, which just
Yes.
the jazzy
Just
bebop
makes
vibe.
sense.
It sounds like a crime paper.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But sometimes it soundtrack like the Australia episode had the didgeridoo element, the Indonesia had the gamelan element.
so that made each episode unique.
Yes, very much so.
And unlike She-Ra, it has a really cool new theme song.
Oh yes.
So I mean, that was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought, like, as Hadi has already covered, characters were very well fleshed out. I'm very excited for this to become a very long series, just because I want to see where Carmen goes.
I mean, there are 144 countries.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they'll hit everything.
I would want them
Right.
to.
There is the Malayan in the opening credits, by the way. I hope they hit Singapore.
One day.
Yeah.
Ooh, that
They were
would
so
be
close,
fascinating.
Indonesia.
Yeah. Nearby.
Nearby.
Yeah. So it's been great. It's been a great start. I think like a lot of the new kind of kid-friendly animations that have been coming out have been good, but Carmen Sandiego stands at the top for me at the moment.
How would you rate it?
I'm gonna give it a solid 7.5.
Nice. I thought what I really loved about this Carmen Sandiego reboot, I echo everything you mentioned, but I like that it's really rooted in reality. Stories about, trying to stop the poisoning of rice paddies in Indonesia, for an organization to, make profit of that.
The disease-resistant rice.
Correct, yeah. Or, kind of returning priceless artifacts to exploited cultures in Ecuador and stuff like that.
Which is a real issue, with old colonial masters keeping.
Correct. Plus, it's enthusiastically didactic messages about culture, history, traditions, and art.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't really blame the didactic nature of it because it's educational entertainment.
Correct.
So I really love it lah. I also really like the dialogue. I thought it was very sharp. I particularly love that I felt like I was represented in this particular show. I've never seen another show represent me this well, because there's that Boston kid that hates fish. That can't eat fish.
Okay.
Never seen any other character
For
in
a
any
moment, I was thinking, what the fuck are you talking about?
fish hating kids is something that is really underrepresented in pop
because
culture.
not many people are fish hating.
I know. The way that he almost vomited when he ate the
Caviar.
caviar, and everything. Yeah, I really felt that lah.
Okay.
I felt properly represented. This is my Black Panther.
Not Asian.
No.
Not Singaporean.
Fuck
not
the Indonesia
Malay.
stuff lah.
No.
This is about fish, I like all the different nicknames that she's given every episode. My personal favorite is Fedora the Explorer.
Yeah.
The one the villain gave her. It's stylish and fun, educational, action packed. 8.5 out of 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
And also, I mean, all joking aside, it also has great meaningful representation for people of color.
Yeah.
And for people who hate fish.
Good for you.
Yeah.
What else for quick hits?
Next up, I have a gritty comic book adaptation called Deadly Class. Deadly Class is getting a lot of hype because it's produced by the Russo brothers company and is an adaptation of Rick Remender and Wesley Craig's super controversial Image comic from the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a story about a school for assassins set in the Reagan era. So combine that period with the promise of graphic violence, kick-ass kind of violence. I bet the Sci-Fi Channel felt that it could combine the nostalgia zeitgeist, Stranger Things 80s stuff, with the edgelord crowd.
They work.
Unfortunately, this show is quite terrible.
Yeah.
Quite terrible. Like every single one of its poser characters, this show is just a great aesthetic with nothing of substance underneath. From the cliques in the high school made up of gangs, some cliques are like the Japanese kids, so they're the Yakuza, and then, the Latino kids are from the Mexican cartel, and then the preppy kids are like the CIA assassins, and then got the Nazi white supremacists, and then the black power gangbangers, stuff like that.
Oh my god. I just rolled my eyes so many times.
Correct. To the main character himself, they're all just caricatures and cliches, It feels like Misfits, the old British, not old lah, from the mid 2000s, the British teen show, mixed
But that was
with
good.
Kick-Ass lah, but with I don't know, with nothing that's too interesting about it lah. It just feels like a series of lazily constructed, politically incorrect memes. They're just like, we are anti this or anti that, we're anti this and anti that. It's just lazy lah.
Recommended?
No, not really. A lot of his characters, they're defined by insert an ideal, or I am anti-capitalist, or insert an ideal, I am anti this, I'm anti that.
Oh no.
So they're just defined by being anti whatever it is lah.
Okay.
The way they talk makes the popcorn nihilism of Fight Club sound profound. Yeah. And worst of all, for all the talk of killing and violence and darkness, right, there's actually very little killing and violence and darkness going on. Everyone and everything is just an empty vessel with no real emotion, and it's difficult to invest when there are no emotional stakes lah.
Okay.
So this is a 0 out of 10 for me.
Whoa, 0.
Yeah.
Damn.
That we've had.
We've had a couple of 1s and 2s here and there, but this is for 0 lah.
Wow.
It's probably the worst thing I've seen in my life though.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Now I just want to watch it just to see how bad it is.
Indeed. Next up, we'll be talking about another grounded, dark adaptation of a comic book. This time on Hulu. It's the second season of Runaways.
Okay.
Runaways finally fulfills its premise and title.
They ran away.
They ran away lah. So, but despite fulfilling its premise, it fulfills none of its promise.
Yeah.
It's a busier and faster second season, but does it make it a better show? Only to a small extent. Clumsy characterization, odd pacing, and lazily contrived conflict makes this mediocre teen drama an overlong and aggravating experience. Everyone speaks in exposition, and despite having a bunch of superpowered teens on the run, it lacks a sense of fun, danger, or adventure. I initially thought that the show's added focus on the parents was a smart move in season 1.
But now?
But now it's just annoying and useless, and it serves no purpose other than just killing time lah. They try to hit upon themes of homelessness and class disparity, which is organic considering the story of rich kids living on the streets, but it's done in such a blasé manner that it doesn't really resonate. So yeah, I mean, 4 out of 10 for The Runaways is the highest I can give it lah.
Oh, better than 0.
Yeah, it's better than 0, but a lot lower than 7 out of 10 I gave the first season.
The first season, yeah.
Next up, I'm going to be talking about the CW's reboot of Roswell.
Yeah, this one.
It follows the daughter of an undocumented
Alien.
Undocumented Mexican immigrant
Alien lah.
who returns to a New Mexico hometown where is shocked to discover the truth about her teenage crush who is an illegal alien from outer space.
So wait, she's an undocumented
Mexican immigrants.
So also an alien lah.
Also an alien, so to speak lah. So you know the metaphor is bluntly hammered in right there lah. So clearly the main allegory they're tackling here is alien immigration. But Roswell, New Mexico's attempt to say something about the world we live in today is ham-fisted at best. The reboot fails to live up to its immigration-centered twists by adding nothing new or interesting to the conversation. If you want to see this done better, go watch Supergirl instead. It's a 3 out of 10.
Oh, another 3. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. A few episodes ago, actually 2 episodes ago, we reviewed an epic Korean movie called Rampant when it came to Golden Village cinemas last October. Set in the Joseon era, it followed a zombie outbreak in medieval Korea, backdropped by court intrigue, an evil government faction using the outbreak to gain power, persecuted scholars plotting a revolution, a starving populace, and an exiled crown prince accused of treason who grows from a selfish royal to a noble warrior. So that is exactly the plot of a new Korean series called Kingdom, which comes to Netflix, featuring the same basic story, setting, and time period. It's a bit weird lah.
Right.
After watching both, I'm pretty sure Netflix did it better. The movie is more action-packed and filled with swashbuckling set pieces, but it's also cheesier. The series doesn't have as much action, but it definitely feels grander and more sophisticated, and it has more gorgeous cinematography lah, to be honest.
Okay.
That being said, both the movie and the series suffer from dire pacing issues, and some stretches feel tedious because it's focused on convoluted plot rather than developing character investment.
Okay.
That being said, it's still a worthwhile watch.
Okay.
It's a 7 out of 10 for
That's
me.
not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, I mean, this is kind of genre because it talks about genre. I'm going to be talking about the premium episode of Drunk History.
Oh, okay.
Very quickly, I just have to highlight that Drunk History 6th season premiere was so delightful.
Oh my god.
It tells the bonkers true story of Mary Shelley, who's played by Evan Rachel Wood, who was inspired to write the character of Frankenstein,
at
played
age
by
19, right?
Yeah, played by Seth Rogen, and his monster played by Will Ferrell during an opium-fueled sex party hosted by Lord Byron.
Oh my god.
And her eventual husband Percy, who is played by Elijah Wood.
Okay.
Somehow this orgy evolved into a scary storytelling contest to see who could come up with the scariest story. This was such a fun way to educate people on the making of a bona fide work of classic genre literature.
I had no idea that Lord Byron was involved.
Oh yeah, he threw an opium-fueled sex party.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the only historical thing I knew that she was 19 years old when she wrote it.
In fact, like the story that Lord Byron told was Dracula, and it ended up being published as Dracula.
Jesus Christ.
I know. So a lot of things came out of the sex party.
Yeah.
So seeing drunk people retell the story and then to see the dialogue reenacted by an all-star cast is much more fun than watching those self-serious Mary Shelley biopics that have come out recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, go watch Drunk History, the season 6 premiere. It is bonkers. It's fun. If you've ever seen Drunk History, you know what the premise is. You know, it's basically Michael Peña's character in Ant-Man, which is just, you know, a kind of a rip-off of Drunk History, to be honest. Yeah, so this is great. And very, very quickly, I just want to touch upon this.
Okay.
Because this is so mind-blowingly insane that I have to tell you guys about this.
What?
I have to talk about a new Matthew McConaughey movie called Serenity.
Huh?
Not to be confused by the Firefly movie.
Which I got confused with.
This 2019 Serenity is a crime thriller created by the showrunner of TV shows such as Peaky Blinders and Taboo, Stephen Knight. And he also wrote movies like Eastern Promises and Locke. So, you know, I expected good things. You know, crime thriller from Stephen Knight.
And?
I didn't expect to talk about this considering there's nothing genre about its premise. But its ending is so ridiculous, right? I have to tell you guys about it.
Okay.
Okay, so the movie stars Matthew McConaughey as a fisherman, obsessed with catching one particular tuna. It's like his white whale.
Okay.
So his real love is tuna. The only thing that's the only thing on his mind until his ex-wife, played by Anne Hathaway, comes to him and offers him $10 million to kill her abusive new husband. Because the new husband has been abusing her, has been abusing their son.
Yeah, okay.
So that was the story lah. So he was supposed to bring him out on this fishing trip. kill him, throw him in the water. That was the story lah.
Lost at sea lah.
Lost at sea. Yeah. But here comes the twist. It turns out, right, that Matthew McConaughey is actually a character in a fishing video game.
No.
That was the ending.
What?
Seriously. That's why he's obsessed with tuna. He is a video game character. And the video game is being modified by his son, who's using it to live out his desire to kill his stepdad. And Matthew McConaughey's character is actually based on the kid's deceased biological father, representing his desire for his dad to save him lah. So you see why it's genre now,
It is genre.
and how unbelievably stupid it is.
Was it good though?
No. This was a 1 out of 10.
Oh shit. Okay. I'm still gonna watch it though.
Yeah, I know. I just had to tell you guys about Serenity because the ending was fucking nuts, bro. You go watch it in Cathay cinemas right now because I promise you that ending is worth all the badness. But I'm sorry I spoiled it lah.
No, it's fine. We're gonna watch it too.
I know. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to Aisa's anime corner, where Aisa will break down the latest season of anime, what to watch, what not to watch.
What do you have for us?
Take it away, Aisa.
Okay, so same rules apply. As always, I've given at least 3 episodes for the animes that I'm recommending. Typically, winter season anime usually doesn't have all the big blockbusters or anything like that. But that being said, I've got 5 recommendations for things that I think will be exciting to watch and are very promising. And one disrecommendation on a anime that we've covered before, and we'll get to that shortly. So first up, we have Dororo, right? Which is an anime about a samurai lord who has bartered away his newborn son's organs to 48 demons in exchange for dominance on the battlefield, right? Somehow, this newborn son survives, and thanks to a medicine man slash puppeteer who equips him with primitive kind of prosthetics, he survives and begins to hunt down the demons who have all his different body parts. So basically, it's kind of like a procedural thing, Demon of the Week, and then he kind of regains his part. The comic relief is provided by a young boy called Dororo, hence the title, who believes himself to be the greatest thief in Japan at that time, and it's basically a buddy cop thing that goes on. Animation style is very fresh. I think the premise is interesting. It's a great adaptation of the manga, which I never actually finished. But so far, I am definitely enjoying this.
Cool.
All right.
Next up, we have
Rise of the Shield Hero, which is another one in the many installations of a very popular genre where you are summoned / reincarnated into a fantasy world. So the Rise of Shield Hero takes place where 4 teen boys from Tokyo are transported into a fantasy world by the kingdom of Murloc, I think is what it's pronounced as. Essentially, our protagonist is the shield hero, so all of them have various weapons that are their specialty, and he's the weakest of the lot. And traditionally, because this has happened cyclically over time in this kingdom, the shield hero is the weakest and nobody really cares about him.
It's like Captain America.
Yes, actually, quite similarly so. So what's interesting about this is that he starts out as a loser. He's given a loser role, and then the story, which tends, in very cliche fashion, to always be in the favor of the protagonist. A lot of the genre leans towards that. The odds are stacked against him. He's betrayed, and he's outcasted, and he swears revenge. And then kind of the story comes from there. It's kind of a fresh take from a very tried and true genre trope, and I think it's quite refreshing to see how they go about that. Slightly darker than a lot of the ones that have come before. Like if you've watched That Time I Was Reincarnated as Slime, is the total polar opposite of that. So
Cool.
I recommend that. The other one is a horror-based thing called The Promised Neverland, and it's basically about these orphans who kind of live in an idyllic orphanage where they're treated well and taken care by their orphanage mother, right? And one fine day, they basically discover that the orphanage, and this is not a spoiler because it's in the description, they discover when they go to the entrance of the orphanage is that the orphanage is actually a farm for demons.
So they're breeding, or not breeding, like collecting sacrifices?
Well, they do bring up the concept of breeding, but they are essentially growing children who are extremely smart so that they can be eaten by demons.
Oh.
Right, so it goes from this kind of very like idyllic kind of slice of life thing very quickly in the first episode to a psychological horror thriller. So far, it's been great. The kids are extremely smart, and them having to contend with a world that they are unfamiliar with, as well as a lot of themes about breaking free of hierarchy and adult supervision, runs through very nicely. So the past 3 episodes have been very good. I'm very excited for where this goes, and hopefully they break out and we'll see where they go from there.
Sweet.
Right. Another one, this time brought to you by Madhouse, is Boogie Pop and the Others. It's a very confusing anime. 3 episodes in, we are still not really sure what the protagonist is about. We are still not really sure what the overall theme is about. But from what I can gather so far, is that you follow an entity called Boogie Pop, who is essentially a Shinigami, or like a Reaper, right? Who's hunting down humans who have been given supernatural powers by another entity called the Imaginator. And the powers that these humans receive are based upon how they perceive themselves within the world. Right? So there are some pretty interesting applications of that with some of the characters that you see, and what people do with the power that they are given. So vastly confusing in the sense that there's they don't spoon feed you any of the story. There hasn't been any exposition so far explaining what's been going on. You kind of have to piece it together episode by episode, with a huge cast of interweaving characters based in a particular city. But Madhouse traditionally has never done anything wrong, especially when they're trying to push boundaries in terms of storytelling as far as anime goes. So I'm very excited to see how this works out. It may very well be a mess at the end of the season, but 3 episodes in and I'm quite excited to see what's going on.
Nice.
We go on to 2 more comedic things. We've got Kaguya-sama, Love is War, which is basically about these 2 high school students from an elite school, and they are both the student council president and vice president respectively. The student council president is bright, intelligent as they come, and the vice president is a girl who basically is going to inherit the biggest corporation in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Right. The 2 of them are in love with each other, but both view the confession of their love as weakness, and the entire story revolves around the comedy of them trying to outmaneuver each other by getting the other to confess their love.
Okay.
Very fun, very witty, and I've been enjoying it so far. My favorite, though, is a slice of life comedy called My Roommate is a Cat.
Okay.
It's about a horror novelist who is shy and isn't very good with other people, and adopts a stray cat that he comes across as inspiration for his next upcoming horror novel. The premise is very simple. He basically adopts the cat, and it's about the 2 of them getting to know each other. But how they go about doing it is that the first half of the episode is told from the eyes of the protagonist, whereas the second half of the episode is told from the eyes of the cat. It's very fun. It's very heartwarming. For anyone who has a cat, this is going to be pretty interesting for you, and it's really good.
Okay.
Now, for not so good things, Netflix recently just released the final installation of their Godzilla animation.
Boo.
Oh, good God. Like, I thought it couldn't get any worse. I was extremely excited because they teased. Yeah, they teased Ghidorah, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, like, okay, now we have 2 kaiju, maybe it can't get any worse than this, but it is a mess. Storytelling wise, it is a mess. Thematically, it is a mess. It's very heavy-handed and clumsy at the same time.
Okay.
Right. So as we've said before, the whole idea of humans being humans and nature and environmentalism and all of that gets rehashed one more time.
Wow.
In almost the exact same manner.
Okay.
Right. And with Ghidorah as this giant avenging spirit. Right, in addition to Godzilla.
Okay.
What a waste of animation.
Yeah, man.
What a waste of some amazing animation.
Yeah, I gave up after the first movie.
Yeah, so I've powered through, guys, just to tell you that
you don't need to watch.
Yeah, you don't need to watch any of it. It is breathtaking, the kind of CGI that they've done. The climatic Ghidorah fight was not climatic at all. They totally underwhelming, and they completely fucked with the whole idea of what a kaiju fight should be.
Shit.
So I do not recommend that at all. That is quite simply like a 1 out of 10 overall for the trilogy. What a disappointment. Hopefully what they're doing with the new monster universe is going to be much better than that.
Yeah, the Hollywood version.
Yes, that's right.
The one with Millie Bobby Brown.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm actually
And
really
Ken
looking
Watanabe.
forward to that. The trailer
Yeah.
is let them fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The trailer's been looking great
nice.
so far, so I'm quite excited that, and we'll cover that when it comes out.
Sweet. Just to tamba, Dragon Ball Super Broly. I actually caught it.
Yes.
And how was it?
It is a colorful chaos. It
Okay.
is anyone with a crude understanding of Dragon Ball mythology, which I don't.
Oh,
But I
okay.
have like a basic understanding of what Dragon Ball is, who the characters are, what the main arcs are. We'll have fun with this because this is Dragon Ball at its most
Crazy.
action-packed apogee. You know, it's fucking nuts.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It is. I guess it's not a great film,
Okay.
but I think Dragon Ball fans will leave very happy with this because it's just pure action bonkers shit right there. You know, Dragon Ball fans love the power levels, love people
Yeah,
just
yeah.
fighting, and this is what the movie is all about.
All right.
It actually made a shit ton of money in America. Surprisingly, it actually cracked the top 5 box office in January.
Not
You know,
bad.
it was right behind Glass.
Yeah.
Very surprising for a Japanese anime.
Yeah. I'm like a lot of history about Dragon Ball.
But, I mean, Dragon Ball is a staple. I mean, outside of like Pokemon, everybody knows what Dragon Ball and
Yeah.
Naruto is, you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, if you want to check it out, it's actually available right now at Film Guard and Golden Village. So, check it. Let's cover Star Wars Resistance. We almost forgot about that, man.
Last month already, right?
Yeah. Okay. No, actually, like Star Wars Resistance is gonna be wrapping up soon in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. But Hardy has actually caught most of it already. So I mean, why don't you like give us a short breakdown on Star Wars Resistance?
Okay, it's not very quick. 2 minutes only.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, right, it's a very good timeline because it covers the ROG, Return of Jedi, and Force Awakens,
Yeah.
that period of time. So there was so much potential where you could explore and develop the world and to connect those two movies together, which the Star Wars Clone Wars did, which Star Wars Rebels also did.
Yeah. However,
However, right, okay, first of all, the movie's too childish for me.
The series.
Yeah, it's very generic, bumbling fool, grows more competent as the season goes, and then becomes a ace pilot by the end of the season. You know, but he starts out as an idiot and then becomes very good at the end. That sort of thing, lah.
Correct. Yeah.
It's just basically all the tropes of every single Star Wars character you have ever had, lah.
Right.
You know, you have the very intelligent but not very socially, no EQ, you know, that kind of thing. You have like the usual droids who are just either very petulant, you know. They must have always a petulant droid.
yeah.
You know, but then you have characters where there's so much potential here, which I just find it's wasted lah. The animation also doesn't feel as tight as Rebels or even Clone Wars lah.
Yeah,
Clone Wars was like I think the best.
Yeah.
The fight, the because it's focused on like pilots and on star battles. And that I felt wasn't well executed also.
Yeah.
It felt very slow paced and all that, which you don't expect from a star battle lah.
Sure.
You know, so overall, the main story itself is very kid friendly,
Yeah.
which nothing wrong. I mean, Steven's universe, you know, kid friendly, right?
Yeah.
But has very deep themes and very well developed characters and all that. Something that was lacking in Star Wars Resistance lah. It's targeted clearly for like your 5 to 7 year olds,
Right.
where Rebels was more like your 12 to 16 year olds, and Clone Wars was 12 to 18 or something like that. So yeah, a lot of potential because of the time period where it's set, right? Where we could really explore and really connect two very important movies in the franchise,
Yeah.
but falls really short for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, good review. How would you rate the series as a whole?
At the moment, I'll give it about 3 out of 10 lah.
Damn, very
Yeah.
low.
I mean, after we seeing Rebels and how it changed the entire universe,
Yes, it did.
right? And how the Clone Wars and how great, it made clone troopers look. This doesn't really add anything to the universe now.
So I guess not an essential piece of viewing if you're a Star
Not
Wars
yet lah.
fan lah.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
It might improve.
Sure.
Yeah.
The season is coming to an end. You can watch it on Disney XD actually.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we'll be back on February
Yes.
1st. It might be not actually not February 1st, March 1st, right?
March 1st, yeah.
Yeah. February 1st is when this episode will be
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
out. But we will be talking about February's titles. It is the shortest month of the year, but we have a lot to talk about. On the superhero end of things, which we always talk about, we have Young Justice, Outsiders, which I really, really love.
So far, so good.
We'll be entering the Uncanny Valley when we watch Alita Battle Angel.
Yeah.
We have a couple of very highly hyped animation titles in terms of How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World, and the Lego Movie 2. Also My Chemical Superheroes by Gerard Way. The Umbrella Academy series is coming
So
to
excited.
Netflix.
Yeah.
We have actually a couple of, weirdly enough, 2 different time loop shows. One is Russian Doll by the makers of Orange is the New Black,
Okay.
a time loop show about a girl who goes to a party and dies. And then we have Happy Death Day to You, which is the sequel to Happy Death Day, which is a movie about a girl who goes to a party and then dies.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So
It actually looks interesting.
yeah, I loved Happy Death Day. I know, I think Isa hasn't seen it, but Happy Death Day was one of my not guilty lah. It was just a pleasure.
Okay.
It's a really adorable time loop.
Embrace it, man.
Yeah, so Happy Death Day to You is the sequel. The trailer looks like it's gonna expand the mythology and,
Okay.
and everything. A couple of smaller films I'll be covering also. One is Velvet Buzzsaw.
Okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal reteams with the director of Nightcrawler. Dan Gilroy, for this fascinating evisceration of the LA art scene.
Okay.
And then this title describes it all. I'm going to be talking about a movie called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, starring Sam Elliott as a man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot.
Oh, I love this kind of titles.
Yes, I know. I love long titles. But weirdly enough, after watching the trailer, it feels like this meditation on aging about this man who had like a storied past. He's done all these things, but now he can't do it anymore.
No.
It looks more somber than I thought it was going to be.
Okay,
I thought it was going to be this like pulp action thing about a man who kills Hitler and
Like
then the Bigfoot.
Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer.
Something like that lah.
Yeah.
But this looks to be a more thoughtful take on it.
By the way, that's a real film.
Correct.
Yeah.
And last but not least, one of our favorite shows from last year, Counterpart is back. We'll be talking about season 2.
Yeah.
Since season 2 has been not a disappointment, shall we say?
Nope.
A disappointment at all. Till then, this has been Hitzer.
I'm Hardy.
I'm Isa.
We'll be back next month. See ya.
Bye bye.